Hello everyone, this is Dr. Joseph Capps coming back again with another video from our channel and our podcast, Dancing with the Darkness. Just to do some housekeeping real quick, if this is your first time listening, this is a podcast that brings in all the elements clinically, mentally, physically, spiritually, as well as faith-based interventions. Talking about life with CPTSD from a raw, unaccounted, and unapologetic view, because that is the life that I have led. And so we're not just here to talk about the past and our wounds and the things that have manifested in us to make us have CPTSD, but we're also here, more importantly, to talk about the hope of turning this pain into purpose and moving on with your lives, and not just surviving, but actually thriving. Not only accepting God's will for your life and how He's crafted you to do a specific purpose, but also how we can actually have a tremendous impact in helping others that are suffering the consequences of CPTSD in their lives and the ripple effect that happens with that. If you're Like I said, if you're a first-time listener, do us a favor. If you like what you're hearing, please like, subscribe, comment. The only way that this information gets disseminated out to the public is with folks like you who support the channel and support the podcast. And we are simply here to help people. One of the things that's synonymous with CPTSD that I know at a very intimate level is that we do not seek help. Oftentimes it has to be something completely and totally catastrophic before we're backed into a corner and we start to actually move on from the pain in our lives. And so if this series of videos, if this channel is going to help people in lieu of getting help or getting therapy, or if it just gives them a kickstart, helps them understand that they're not alone in the world, that there's those of us out here that understand what they're dealing with, and that there's hope, number one ingredient, that there's hope for recovery, we greatly appreciate it. For those of you that are subscribed and continue to listen, we thank you so much for your support. Love your comments. I love your support. If we help one individual each week when we do a video or a podcast, it's absolutely God's purpose, and it certainly helps validate my experiences and my pain in making my own life turning pain into purpose. So we have been doing a series on attachment because it's a huge part of CPTSD. Is how we show up in relationships based on how we developed, not only from a temperament standpoint, but from developmental trauma all the way up to adulthood, depending on what traumas we've experienced in our adult life. It all combines and it determines how we show up in relationships. And so we've gone over the attachment strategies. Most recently, we went over probably the most common one that gets talked about the least, which is the disorganized attachment, which that was my style and my strategy up into my late 40s before I started really learning how to break out of that pattern. And so, number one, it's not something that happens overnight, but it can be done. And I'm going to further go into some scenarios to help you understand how that starts happening and what we need to do. I'm going to start off with the actual psychology, the clinical, the mental fitness or resilience portion, the things that we have to do in ourselves that we have control over that'll help us start healing from these attachment wounds. And also, I want to talk about how we're not guaranteed to not have more attachment wounds. Okay, so we're going to turn all of these negative things that we may have seen or others may have seen as a hindrance, and I'm going to show you how to turn those into a very, very advantageous set of attributes. Okay, so I'm talking about stuff that goes along with PTSD and CPTSD, such as the hypervigilance, the attention to detail, the hyperfocus, all of these things that can become a roller coaster in our nervous system. We can also take some of these things and plug them in a very purposeful way, and it keeps us safe, it keeps others safe. And actually by doing that, by giving these reflex reactions that we have some purpose, we are able to actually regulate the nervous system at the same time, because we actually are accepting who we are and feeling good about who that person is. Because instead of these attributes allowing the inner and the outer critic to come in and screw everything up, we've talked about that many videos, we're going to use these things to actually keep us safe, to help prevent attachment wounds, to help us be better in relationships, and to make sure that we set boundaries that are healthy and that we get in relationships that are healthy with healthy people, if that makes sense. So one of the things that we need to understand is, as you're going through your healing journey and you start getting into relationships again and you start trying to have healthy relationships, we need to understand that attachment wounds can still happen, because we're all human. We're not perfect. And so in the midst of you doing these things, as you're breaking out of old patterns and getting into new patterns, you may still experience some attachment wounds. And so we can't allow these attachment wounds to spiral us right back into a disorganized attachment where we're doing avoidant behaviors and anxious behaviors, and then, knock, knock, knock on the door, here comes the inner and the outer critic, and they start trying to destroy you again, okay? We need to understand that it's God's will for us to have fellowship. It's God's will for us to have relationships. The whole reason He gave us free will in the first place was so that we could choose to have a loving relationship with Him. And so we have to get in that. If we're going to talk about relationships, if we're going to talk about attachment, we need to understand who the author and the finisher is of relationships and of attachment, and that's God. And so I have to bring that up. I cannot come to you in a false way or a Hippocratic way or a way that is against my ideals, morals, ethics, or blasphemous literally to the healing journey that happened with me. I have to give credit to God for being the only one that could start my healing journey and help me to heal, and then ultimately plug me in to a role where I'm trying to help others. It's only through Him and through His grace and through the amazing power that He has. He is the only thing that's bigger than the trauma and the pain and the evil that has happened to us. We can't deal with that on our own, okay? And unfortunately, clinical things, treatment things, I am a constant student, and so I've studied nutrition, I've studied sleep, I've studied all of these things that go into having healthy mental health, and there's always going to be a missing ingredient. No matter what pill you take, no matter what therapy you do, there is a void that can only be filled when we acknowledge God. And I'm going to talk about, towards the end of this video, leaving on a positive note, about how is attachment formed and what does healthy attachment or secure attachment look like. And we're going to see that, the only one who fills that role 100% and is always consistent is God. Okay? And so part of this is also we have to keep our expectations realistic, and understand that everyone has experienced some sort of hurt, some sort of trauma, has experienced the effects of sin in their life. And so there's going to be a wound in there. And sometimes when our wounds show up, we hurt other people. And it may not be intentional. Often it's not. So I don't want folks to be getting into a healthy relationship, and then there's this little nugget of something that manifests itself, and then you go running for the hills like the avoidant does, and you lose potentially a really good relationship. Okay? So we can't let those little nuggets of discouragement or pain sabotage potentially a healthy relationship, especially someone that God has actually put into your life, because this is all the work of the darkness and of I believe demonic oppression and spiritual warfare, where if they destroy that part of us and they destroy our fellowship, we become much weaker and less effective. And so just keep that in mind, that's the mindset that we're going to be coming from. So what do we do if we have one of these attachment wounds? Okay, and it can be something simple because we're so hypersensitive to it. It can be a missed text or a missed email, or somebody says they're going to do something and they don't because of extenuating circumstances, and we can personalize that. We can start feeling the effects of the avoidant part of the disorganized attachment that wants us to push away or run. And we start, having the anxious behaviors that we've talked about where, oh, maybe this person isn't interested in me, maybe they don't love me. And then you see how it cascades. The inner critic is telling you that you're not worthy of love, that you're not lovable. The outer critic comes in and he's telling you that no one else in the world is out there is safe, and they're going to hurt you. Okay, so we've talked about this, but we have to, because this is the pattern. Any of you that are listening to this that have attachment injury or have disorganized, anxious, or avoidant attachment strategies, you understand what I'm talking about, because this has happened to you over and over again. It's the hamster in the wheel, and we continue to run and run and run, and we never get anywhere. And so, the definition of insanity, that's an old saying, but it really, really is true, is that we continue to do the same thing or the same behaviors and looking for a different result, and that's not going to happen. Okay, so we need to understand we have to make some changes in ourselves. We have to make some changes within our lives. We have to embrace what we have control over, and then it's actually going to change the outcome in the relationships that we have and with the people that we have relationships with. Okay? And so one of the things that we need to do in CPTSD is we have to accept the fact that self-care is not selfishness. I know in my life this has been such a hiccup or a hindrance or a sticking point, whatever you want to call it. It has been huge in my life because I have felt so worthless and so unloved and have been stuck in that role that I feel that everything and everyone is more important than me, and that even if I tried to do a small thing for myself, I felt guilt and shame. And this is a recurring pattern, and it damages us. And I'm telling you, the more gray that's on your face, the more white that's in your hair, the harder this is, because our physical bodies and our mental capacity have less ability to deal with this, because it has taken a tremendous toll on our nervous system, and we start getting to the point where we are not able to compartmentalize and to deal with these things anymore. Okay, so it affects us deeper. It causes fatigue. It causes all kinds of other things that can get us into anxiety, get us into depression, and the list goes on. Okay, you start having physical problems that maybe didn't manifest before, but now they do because of inflammation. So now we're having bowel troubles, and we're having irregular heartbeats and high blood pressure and all these other things. Okay, so we need to understand that we have to do some self-care, and self-care is not selfish. It's not you deciding, hey, screw the world, screw everybody else, I'm more important than anybody else. That's not what you're doing. You are literally preserving yourself, because if you want to be effective, if you want to show up in a relationship, if you want to be all of these things that you've been crafted to be, a person with CPTSD is going to have a tremendous bar raised for themselves, and you're going to have a tremendous set of ethics, morals, and values that you adhere to, and you're going to have a unbelievable inner critic that is, constantly trying to tell you you need to do better. We're not going to be able to show up at all, which is going to be more detrimental to the people around us than anything else, because we're just going to not be able to show up at all in relationships, physically, mentally, or spiritually. And so we have to do some maintenance. Let's just call it maintenance on ourselves. And so when we have an attachment wound, in order to preserve ourselves, in order to prevent the cascade of the inner and outer critic coming in and trying to screw everything up, we need to do some things. Okay, now in psychology they tell you to do mindfulness. As a man of God, as a Christian man, mindfulness for me is prayer. Prayer is huge, because I can stop, I can concentrate on God and myself and our relationship, and I can come to Him as my loving Father and ask for His assistance and for His help. And this does a tremendous amount of good for you. I have, witnessed and been on neurofeedback and biofeedback, and I have literally watched the brain waves calm down. I have watched the activity in the amygdala and the hypothalamus calm down. I have seen the breath rate go down, the pulse ox go up. All of these medical things, it absolutely benefits us. Okay, and it's not selfish. We are preserving. Okay. Engaging in regular exercise, I can't say that enough. If you want to beat the blues, if you want to fight depression, if you want to to really kick the inner and the outer critic's butt, you've got to get some exercise. And I'm not talking about you have to go be a bodybuilder or a world-class athlete or Olympic athlete, okay? Do something that you enjoy. Simply getting out and walking does so much for us. We get out in nature, we walk, we're getting all of the sensations of the things around us, we're distracted from the things that are going on inside of us, and our body is getting a tremendous physical benefit because we are getting endorphins and we are burning calories. It's just, there's no negative to it, okay? A lot of people talk about yoga and things of that nature. I'm a little leery of yoga because it has a spiritual nature to it that isn't of God. But exercise in general, I think, is really, really good. Listening to the music that you like that's uplifting or makes you feel good, or, you know, there's a lot of really good podcasts out there. This one, right? No, just kidding. There's a lot of great podcasts out there. I listen to a lot of them myself, things that lift us up, things that make us feel positive, make us feel less alone. That stuff is out there, okay? If you have some friends or you have some family that care about you, spend some time with them, okay? Not the toxic ones, okay? We need to start working on eliminating that part. But those that are healthy and conducive to health in your life, it's okay to spend time with them. It's okay to laugh, tell stupid jokes, whatever it is. Get some positivity there, okay? Sometimes we do need some alone time. And if you're going to have that alone time, it's not a time for you to sit and ruminate and worry, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. But if you can have alone time with you and God, or you and a hobby that you really like, whether it's fishing, or maybe you like to journal, or maybe you like to write, or maybe you like to read, or like me, you like to study, whatever it is, give yourself that time to have with yourself and to do something productive that's going to make you feel better about yourself. The second thing that we need to do after attachment wounds is, if we are in relationships, especially in the relationship where this wound happened, we need to really work on what we do. Remember last video we talked about how we show up in the relationship. So we really need to work at how we show up in this relationship. And that's not only going to prevent further attachment wounds, it's going to create healthy boundaries. It's actually not only going to make you better in the relationship, but it's going to make the person you're in the relationship with better. Now, I cannot say enough about communication. I know I heard people say this over and over again, communication. And I was like, yeah, whatever, because nobody had taught me how to communicate, right? I didn't know how to communicate. It was all react. It was never respond. But we talked about this in past videos also. If we learn how to respond instead of reacting, this has a tremendous benefit on the relationship. And it's open communication. It's being able to be in a relationship with someone when there is an offense or there's an injury or there's something that happens. We need to be in a relationship with someone where we can go ahead and say that immediately, okay? Hey, I'm not coming at you in an aggressive way. I'm not reacting to the wound. I just want you to know that, hey, when you do so-and-so, it makes me feel a certain way, and I don't want to feel that way. And also, I don't want to have any resentment towards you or anger or any feelings towards you, because often we misstep in relationships and it's not intentional. And if we just had the courage to communicate that, we could prevent a lot of hardship and all of these bad habits where we start pushing away and we start having resentment. And it's like you got a little chalkboard over here, right? And you're going up, strike one, strike two, strike three. Okay, or, the scales. I've always thought about the scales. And, oh, look at that. She's got the advantage now. Oh, I've got the advantage now. Okay, that's not healthy. Okay, and I'm sorry to say, but if you're in relationships where that isn't possible, where if you are trying to be healthy and you are trying to communicate and the other person continues to react and attack you, this is not a healthy relationship. This is a toxic relationship. And I wish that I could sugarcoat it, but I can't. You're not going to get anywhere in that relationship. Once we start making the choice that we are going to be healthy and we're going to show up healthy in relationships, we have to stick to that. And if the other person or people are not willing to get better with us or to practice these things with us, it's going to be hitting a wall every time. Okay. And as you can see, it's going to cause more damage to you, right? Because the more they react, the more they're going to wound you. Okay. And we've got to get out of that pattern. Okay. The other thing that we need to do is set clear boundaries. Okay. Now, the communication piece is actually setting a boundary. Okay. It's saying in the relationship, we're going to communicate this way because it's a healthy way. We're going to do it this way because it's good for me and it's good for you and it's good for the relationship. If we start looking, especially at marriage, if we look at marriage as what we're trying to take care of, if that's our little baby that we're coddling, then it's easier to show up this way, right? Because it's not you or me. We're trying to save the union between the two of us, and it takes equal work to do that. Okay. So it's not a competition. It's not, you versus me. It's not any of those things. Okay. Because with this disorganized attachment style, we have been developed and taught, and we have just been conditioned that relationships are like war, and it's just not healthy. It's who has the advantage, who's right, who's wrong, who did this, who did that. We're never going to get anywhere. Okay. Last but not least, sometimes you have to get some help from a professional. I am not a big advocate of marriage counseling because 99% of marriage counselors get it wrong. Couples go into the room and somebody is looking for an advantage because, they're in an unhealthy relationship right now. So they are stuck in those patterns and they're going into the counseling office with those patterns. And if it's a female counselor, obviously the female of the relationship is trying to side with that female. If it's a male, the male is trying to side with the male. You're looking for an advantage. You're looking for that person to buy in. And so you have to be very, very careful. If you're going to do marriage counseling, you need to make sure that the modality or the mindset of that counselor is that the marriage is the client, that they are never going to side with either one of you. They're going to be objective. They're going to look at each set of circumstances and they're going to help the two of you solve your problems to solve the marriage. They cannot have uneven feelings or sympathies or compassion for either one of you. It's not going to work. And I have to throw that warning out to you because I have seen so many people go to marriage counseling and it made things worse. And I'm sorry, but it does. So keep that in mind. So I want to read this quote to you that is really, really profound. As we get into the last part of this video, I just want to give you some positive things here. And so I'm going to read this quote. Let me find it here. Okay. Relationship or bonding is at the foundation of God's nature. Since we are created in His likeness, relationship is our most fundamental need, the very foundation of who we are. Without relationship, without attachment to God and others, we can't be ourselves. And that was from Dr. Henry Cloud. And it really is what I want to talk about at the end of this video is, where does relationship even come from? Okay. And so let's look at some things that a secure person does. Okay. Somebody who comes into the relationship secure, we've talked about this just now about the communication piece. Okay. They are skilled at communicating. Okay. And not just communicating, but they're skilled at communicating their feelings or their opinions without fear, in a calm way that's not threatening, okay, because they're secure in themselves and they're secure in their feelings, okay? This is how we show up securely, okay? One of the things that's very hard for us is trust, and it's because we've had a consistent level of individuals harming us or individuals making life harder by harming us, okay? And so we need to understand that trust has been very, very hard, because when we've even started to trust people, they've harmed us. And a lot of that has to do with the choices that we made getting into a pattern of constantly being around toxic people. So the expectation of them showing up healthy and not harming us just isn't realistic, okay? And so we got stuck in those patterns because it was familiar, and then we just continue on in this spiral. So as you're getting into a relationship and you've decided that you want to be healthy and you want to be in a secure relationship, these are not only the things that you need to do, but these are things that you need to look for in that other person. So adversely, you need to look for a person that is capable of expressing their opinions and their feelings without hostility, without trying to get an advantage, without throwing a dart at you to make you feel bad. Okay, they're not manipulating you. They're just saying, hey, you know what, I really like you and I want to continue to like you. One of the things that we need to work on is, when you do this or you say this, it makes me feel this way. And we need to learn to respond and not react to that so that we can be better and that person can also get what they need in the relationship. And that's how we start nurturing this secure relationship. This person is not going to see mistakes or errors in the relationship as a sign of a lack of integrity or a lack of dishonesty or rejection. They're able to see it for what it is and say, okay, maybe you've been wounded in the past, or maybe, this is a pattern and you're not doing it on purpose. So a person that's secure in the relationship can recognize that, can say, okay, well, I know he or she isn't really doing that on purpose. So I'm secure in the fact that I know that they're not rejecting me. And then back to the communication piece, I'm able to express to them that, hey, I see what you're doing here. I don't see it as rejection, but it's not healthy, and let's not do that. Okay? So we're able to not jump, into that immediate avoidant or anxious piece of attachment strategy. Okay? So this is something that's really important. Something that I am still learning to do, but has become, much, much better in my life. We talked about this in past videos, how often we manifest everything through anger, especially men. This is our go-to emotion. Anger, 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 anger is everything, right? Well, secure people in relationships, and as we get healthier and we get into better relationships, we're able to have more of an anger like Jesus had, which is a righteous anger. We're able to have healthy expressions of anger that are not meant to hurt but are meant to heal, because our anger is just, because it is over an injustice or a mistreatment or something of that nature, and it's not retaliatory. We're not trying to harm the other person. Okay, so these are the things that we look for as we're starting to get into a secure relationship. Okay, now there's 4 main goals that we should look for as we're trying to build a secure relationship. Okay, pretty simple. Number 1 is regulation, that we've talked about over and over again. We need to be able to self-regulate, and oftentimes if you're in the right relationship, you will find that the two of you co-regulate, and that you help each other, that you actually help calm the other person's nervous system, which is amazing. Okay, relationship warmth. Instead of being afraid of affection, afraid of words of affirmation, afraid of all of those love languages, we are able to affirm and be better with what we're doing, okay, in the relationship. Self-awareness, okay, so that we're able to see through things that would be perceived as criticism, okay, and they're actually constructive and building in nature, not to tear us down, but to make us better, because we see the potential in each other. Okay, developmental focus is the last one. We constantly are looking to develop the relationship, to make it healthier, to make it better for both of us and for those around us. Okay, and so I wanted to close. I wanted to find this one little thing that I promised to give you. Okay, all right. So I'm going to read this to you. The 5 criteria for a healthy attachment relationship. Okay. Proximity or closeness to the caregiver is sought, especially in times of trouble. God. The caregiver provides a safe haven, a felt sense of security. Once again, God always gives us this. The caregiver provides a secure base from which to explore the world. Once again, only God gives us this consistently. Any threat or separation induces fear of anxiety. When we don't feel like we're in God's presence, it's terrible, okay? And that's what sin does, is it distances us from Him, and it's a terrible feeling, okay? And so we absolutely feel that with our relationship with God. And loss of a caregiver induces grief or sorrow. And so, once again, we never lose God. He promises to never forsake us, to never leave us, to always be with us until the ends of the earth. If this video spoke to you today, please like, comment, and share. We love hearing these things. Hope that this was uplifting to you. Hope this was instructional. And most of all, I keep using the word hope because that's what I want you to have today. As we close, as I want you to have hope for a better future, and to know that you're not alone. God loves you, and you can absolutely thrive and build secure relationships. Until next time, this is Dr. Capps, Dancing with the Darkness. Take care.